Tonight, job cuts in Port Pirie as Nyrstar goes through a global restructure. And 1 year on from the power plant closure, calls continue for a solar thermal plant in Port Augusta.
This is Southern Cross News with Tim Hatfield.
Good evening. The Nyrstar plant in Port Pirie is undergoing a restructure after the international company announced it will be experiencing cutbacks. The company also announced severe financial losses and resulting job cuts in Port Pirie. Keziah Sullivan has the details.
In an internal letter to staff last week, Port Pirie's Nyrstar boss, Bertus de Villiers, revealed the struggles the company is facing globally. The flow-on effect is impacting the smelter here in Port Pirie, as it was also revealed several jobs will be cut thanks to the restructure. Initial reports suggested that up to 90 jobs would be at stake, but Nyrstar shut down those claims today and confirmed that no more than 10 jobs would be lost. The moving around of staff will occur mainly in support roles, and production roles are not expected to be impacted. The restructure comes as the company reveals it has been running at a loss since 2012. In the last financial year, the company's losses totalled over $1.2 billion. And in his letter to staff members, Mr de Villiers stressed the company wouldn't survive at that rate. He said the business needs to move from making a loss into a company which generates profits. And without immediate action, Nyrstar is unlikely to exist in its current shape in 1 to 2 years. He went on to say further work has also been undertaken to identify additional efficiencies, which will deliver the overall optimal structure for the business. Despite the hurdle, management at Port Pirie's Nyrstar smelter is confident moving forward with the sustainability of the company and the $660 million redevelopment. The site is expected to be commissioned by September this year.
Keziah Sullivan reporting there. A man's been summoned to face court in Broken Hill, charged with allegedly engaging in sexually explicit conversations with what he thought was a 13-year-old boy. Police began speaking to the man from an indie online last November. Patrick Reinke has the details from Broken Hill.
The 25-year-old Menindee man was arrested last month after allegedly being involved in numerous explicit conversations with the Sex Crime Squad's Child Exploitation Internet Unit. The unit conducts ongoing investigations into sexual abuse and exploitation of children online under Strikeforce Trawler. In November last year, officers from the Strikeforce began talking to the man online as they posed as a teenage boy. They say a number of sexually explicit messages were exchanged. They even discussed the possibility of meeting up. The man was arrested on Thursday, April 20, at his home in Menindee. Detectives searched his house and seized a mobile phone, a computer and storage devices. He was granted bail and was due in court today. He is charged with using a carriage service to groom a person under 16. Regular covert online investigations are conducted by the Child Exploitation Internet Unit, but they urge anyone with information about internet predators to contact Crime Stoppers.
Patrick Reinke reporting there. Whyalla police are still investigating the mysterious death of a 37-year-old woman at her Mitchell Street home on Sunday. Her death is still being treated as unexplained, with Whyalla CIB detectives continuing to piece together what happened. A post-mortem was conducted on the body in Adelaide yesterday. Police are still asking for the public to come forward with any information that may help them solve this unusual death. Anyone with information can contact Crime Stoppers on 1800 333 000 and you can stay anonymous. Well, 1 year ago today, Port Augusta's coal-fired power station closed its doors, leaving 180 people without jobs in the city without Alinta's business. But solar thermal power station campaign groups in Port Augusta say today is an opportunity to renew the call for the state government to make some action.
Reflecting their campaign in Adelaide last week.
Build a solar thermal, yeah, yeah. Build a solar thermal, yeah, yeah.
1 year on from the Alinta power station closure, Gary Rowbottom from Repower Port Augusta says it's about time for a solar thermal power station.
Mr Wetherill, I think it's time we actually got going on this. It's been a year since Northern Power Station shut down. The tender process kicked off in 12th of November 2015 with the expression of interest. So we've been fiddling around the edges of this for quite some time. Let's do it.
Gary was one of nearly 200 people who lost their jobs after Alinta's closure and says it was the best job he's had.
To see it in ruin and getting pieces chopped off one by one, but That's done. We just have to look forward now to what we can achieve. And
in reflection, Port Augusta resident and solar thermal campaigner Carmel says she believes Alinta's closure was a blessing in disguise.
And you wouldn't leave anything white out too long because it would just come over. So, like we've been breathing that in forever, and there's so many people are affected by that, with their health and stuff like that.
Our community has suffered. We've, for 2 years we've known about the closure, then the closures happen, and so people have been zipping up their pockets.
The state government is expected to come out with their decision next month. Amelia Simpson, Southern Cross News.
Port Perry's unemployment rate has drastically reduced, according to the latest data released from the Employment Department. The good news is being welcomed by the Chamber of Commerce, which says the city has turned over a new leaf.
More Port Pirie residents are finding jobs, according to the latest unemployment statistics.
I think it was from, say, 16% down to 9.9% actually, so, great result.
The Chamber of Commerce is welcoming the good news, and they believe the smelter redevelopment has played a huge part in business security in the city.
There's a lot of confidence now, especially with Nearstar progressing very well with their transformation. And that's now, we've seen that, I'm pretty sure, transpire into our community.
Major businesses are also feeling more confident in investing in the city. Just last year, On the Run built their first major service station, and Audi isn't far away.
We need to focus on making Port Pirie strong and vibrant again, and I'm pretty confident that's already taking place and that will continue.
But it hasn't all been smooth sailing for businesses this year.
We've got some difficulties at the moment within the CBD for those businesses there. We encourage anybody, if they could frequent those businesses, to help them along. They're doing it pretty tough at the minute.
South Australia's unemployment rate is 6.7 and the youth rate is sitting at 14.7.
We've had some great opportunities that have come from the Chamber of Commerce. One of them now is the Come See Change promotion, which is taking place, and that's been rolled out as we speak.
Keziah Sullivan, Southern Cross News.
Well, stay with us. Still to come in tonight's local news, the fight to save Port Lincoln's iconic Tunarama. Locals urged to rally. The details ahead. Welcome back. The Port Lincoln community is still in shock since learning about the dire financial position of its iconic Tunarama Festival. The region's tourism and hospitality industries are urging the community to throw their support behind the event in hopes of salvaging its future.
For 56 years, Tunarama has been a major drawcard for Port Lincoln. But a week on from the revelation of its dire financial state, the community is throwing its weight behind the event.
Without Tunarama, we would find that we would have a very quiet end of January, compared to another influx when Tunarama's here.
The boost to tourism is widespread and is recognised on the global calendar.
It fills hotel rooms, it fills apartments, it fills houses, brings people in from across South Australia as well as from interstate. There's a number of international tourists that do come through when they know that it's on as well.
It's almost unthinkable that next year Port Lincoln could forgo the festival. The tourism sector adamant it needs to go ahead.
We'd have to bring something else that would bring people, to extend that tourism season.
The Tunarama Committee is urging residents to attend the upcoming AGM next Wednesday, but the council is likely to meet before then to decide its future.
I'm hoping that people will rally and support the Tunarama. The committee and the community can find a way through.
Next year, 2 cruise ships will dock during the festival, with thousands expecting to visit Port Lincoln's signature event.
I don't think people will realise until we haven't got a Tunarama how much it does bring to us and how important it is for every single business here.
Jason Kemp, Southern Cross News.
The Telstra copper network around Port Augusta will be disconnected this Friday as a final phase of the NBN rollout. From 2015, residents were given 18 months' notice of the switch off before fibre optic cable was rolled out across the city until January last year. While certain homes around Port Augusta may remain connected to the old network due to medical alarms, an NBN spokesperson says residents should be well notified of the changes.
If you get a letter from the NBN and it's not addressed to you directly, but it just says to the householder, I would very much urge you to open that letter because it is about your direct service into your home.
Well, students at 2 Broken Hill high schools were given an eye-opening talk today about the dangers of problem gambling. A former rugby league star spoke of his experience with the problem and the steps he took to fix it.
Former Parramatta Eel star Nathan Highmarsh has had his troubles with problem gambling, but now he's an ambassador for ClubSafe and helping a younger generation handle the issue. Nathan talked about his time playing for the Eels and how what started as a fun one-off win at the pokies turned into a $1,000 a day problem. He hopes his story and the message it brings can teach kids about the dangers of problem gambling.
And more so just saying that, you don't have to have hit rock bottom to put your hand up and ask for help. And that's the big message we push. You may have an issue with, gambling, drugs, alcohol, but you don't have to hit rock bottom to say, well, enough's enough.
It's not the first time Nathan has spoken to Broken Hills high school students. He visited last year to talk on the same topic.
These guys are off to the big bad world in a few years' time, so going out into the workforce, being able to go into clubs, pubs, all that type of stuff. So it's important they do understand that, if you are going to gamble, that you do it responsibly.
Students say they found the talk very educational.
I didn't realise it would affect me or anyone around me personally, but he said it affects 5% of people like our age, and that really surprised me, and it was good to get information about it.
Approximately 5% of kids between 12 and 17 have a gambling problem, and it's talks like this that'll help reduce that number.
If we can let people know early that you don't need an expert to tell you if you've got a problem with gambling, if it's no longer fun, if you have regret, then put your hand up and ask for help.
Patrick Reinke, Southern Cross News.
Barra is celebrating a massive win after being added to the National Heritage List. The town was recognised for its Cornish mining heritage and now joins the list of 6 other sites across South Australia. The state government made the announcement yesterday. Cornish mining, heritage of the Barra and Moonta mines helped to shape technology and traditions of the Australian base metal mining industry. The history of the small town dates back to the 1800s. Well, stay with us. Still to come in tonight's edition of Southern Cross News. Calls for Art Prize entrance in Port Augusta and from across the state. The details next. Welcome back. The state's Health Commissioner has visited Port Lincoln to hear views of Eyre Peninsula residents as part of developing a mental health plan. The Commissioner engaged with locals to piece together a strategic response in hopes of one day unravelling the issues involved with mental illness.
It's a topic that's hard to talk about, but open discussions like this are vital to moving forward.
We need to have these conversations, particularly with people in the country like Port Lincoln, to know and understand what the situation is like out here in terms of mental health and wellbeing.
The Health Commissioner flying over to hear locals talk about their problems in hopes of one day providing answers.
For too long, people have talked about mental health in terms of mental illness and the health department. It's about every department of government. It's about all of us taking responsibility for the mental health and wellbeing of our society.
Part of the solution is opening up to those around them to break down the stigma attached to mental illness.
Unfortunately, it happens too much in our country regions, and the solution and part of it is having our voices heard because we know what's best, and locals supporting locals is always the best way to go.
Mr Burns giving high praise to Port Lincoln's robust community and its support network, which has helped deal with tragedies in the past.
How do we make other communities as resilient as Port Lincoln, and how do we build it and make people more resilient so when the next disaster comes along, everyone's ready for it?
Among those stories, the legacy of Kirsty Traeger, which lives on in the program she helped establish.
Kirst was the instigator, the initiator, she was everything, and it's been a hard road without her here to be able to get the program and make sure it keeps going, but we all are passionate about it and we all have a real belief in making sure her memory lasts on through this project.
Jason Kemp, Southern Cross News.
The annual Mulka Aboriginal Art Prize is taking entries for its 2017 competition as artwork from around the state will be displayed at the Artapertley Gallery in Port Augusta. Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander artists living from anywhere between Yorke Peninsula to the far north and the western parts of the state can enter. Now, in its 8th year, the competition offers artists a chance to display their work and compete for over $2,000 in prize money. Last year, the gallery ran a People's Choice Award, allowing visitors to vote for their favourite piece. Artists wanting to enter have until Friday the 26th of this month, and the exhibition will be open in Port Augusta on June the 8th. Well, to sports news now, and Broken Hills West Football Club have announced their guest speaker for this year's Past Players reunion. None other than North Melbourne star and Lamb advocate Sam Kekovich will headline the event to be held on the 25th of June. It's not the first time West have had a major Aussie personality as a guest speaker. In 2015, they were visited by the 300-game superstar from Geelong, the one and only Sam Newman. Tickets are now on sale. Well, to the other sort of football now, and Croatia have cemented their place at the top of the Whyalla Soccer League after a comprehensive 6-0 win over Wanderers. In pretty windy conditions, the ladder leaders showed why they're now the favourites for the crown, dismantling their opponents. John Hunt joins us, and John, Croatia really looking strong early in the season.
Tim, it may only be round 4, but Croatia are already looking strong, with Wanderers finding out the hard way on Saturday. Leading 2-0 at half-time, kicking into the wind, Croatia scored early goals in the second half, on their way to a comprehensive win. The 6-0 thrashing sees Croatia maintain a 2-point lead at the top of the table, with Wanderers still in 4th position. In the other Whyalla match, Westland United recorded a 4-2 win over a Gallant Lions to stay within 2 points of Croatia. Over in Broken Hill Soccer, Celtic had a 5-1 win over St Joe's, and West started their title defence with a 4-2 win over Alma. Northern Demons missed the chance to strengthen its lead at the top of the NPL State League 2, with a surprise 2-0 defeat to Eastern United. Savoy had the week off due to the Challenge Cup. And in Port Lincoln, there were wins for Lincoln Knights and Seckle Masters. A quick look at Broken Hill tennis, and the Smashers were too good for the Swallows, while the Volleys defeated the Forehands. Let's turn to netball now, and in Whyalla, the Warriors remain undefeated in their quest for back-to-back titles, after crushing Rapina on Saturday. Parslow and Breen dominated as they defeated the Roos 52-14, while in the other game, True Blue edged out YCW 54-47. In Port Pirie, Central Risdon were too good for Port, while St Mark's Celtic had a thrilling 2-goal win over Blue Wren. St Joseph's remained top of the Port Augusta Netball League after a 45-43 win over Vikings, and Railways had a comfortable win over the Magpies. Down in Port Lincoln, Waybacks had a 6-goal win over South. Wanilla were too strong for St Mary's, and Boston's had a big win over Imperials. And finally, in Northern Areas Netball, there were wins for Orroroo, BMW and Broughton Mandurah. Tim, that's all the sport for another week, but we'll be back Friday with our expert footy tipsters from across the region. And if you have a sport you want to see the scores on TV, drop us a line at localsport@sca.com.au.
Good stuff, thank you, John. John Hunt there with tonight's sports wrap. Well, stay with us after the break. A look at how the weather is shaping up for the next couple of days. Weather time now, and the sunny spell continues, but the temps are creeping back bit by bit. More sunshine across the board for this Tuesday. 20 today's top in Port Augusta and Port Lincoln. Whyalla today 18 degrees, Port Pirie 19, Broken Hill also sunny on 18. On the national satellite image, a high moving off towards Tassie has fairly fine and clear conditions in its wake over our region. On the waters, the winds to 15 knots to the north, the seas below a metre and southerly. Sunrise tomorrow morning just before 7 o'clock. So much more of the same expected into tomorrow, with a cool morning, then a fine day. 21 for Port Augusta and for Whyalla, the same in Port Pirie. Port Lincoln fine on 22, while Broken Hill is looking sunny on 20. Some showers around into Thursday for Port Lincoln and 21 degrees, the same for Friday. Cleve fine and sunny with 20, then 21 to see off the week. 22, then 23 for Woodner. Whyalla looking at a top of 20 for Thursday, then 21 on Friday, 22 both days in Port Augusta, and 21 for Kadina. Port Pirie looking at 21 both days as well, and staying fairly fine and sunny. Clare looking at 18 to run out the week, 21 for Thursday in Broken Hill, and then fine and 20 on Friday. And that is your local news for this evening. Don't forget, as always, you can stay up to date with us on Facebook and on Twitter. You can also drop us an email. There will be special budget updates throughout the evening here on Southern Cross, and then for a full wrap, don't forget sunrise tomorrow morning, and we'll see you back here tomorrow night from 6:30. I'm Tim Hadfield from the Southern Cross News team. Have a good evening. Good night.